Hello. This is the AR module assignment for student number 1832865, named Christopher Masson. So here we have a program that finds geometry to use using the Unreal Engine, and when you tap on those red planes, it will load the minimap. And using this minimap, you can teleport to one of these four sections. So if you tap the duck, you'll get this body of water with a duck here. And I should note that I was originally planning to do this in Unity, but ran into problems setting up the SDKs, JDK, and NDKs. So I'd have to use Unreal Engine because I already had those set up for it. So in this section, you tap the bread, and you know you've tapped the bread by indicated by this quack. Then you tap the water to put the slice of bread into it, and the duck will then go towards it. And you can do it as many times as you want, but you can't do it while the duck is trying to get bread. It won't hold until the duck is returned to its original position. These purple blocks allows you to return back to the mini-map to select different sections of the park, so you can go to different areas like you're actually exploring a huge park environment. So when you go to the rubbish bin, you have some rubbish here, and when you pick it up, you play the sound effect, and then you tap the bin to put the rubbish in, and you can only hold one bit of rubbish at a time before you have to put it into the bin. Same thing with the mini map. There's the basketball hoop, which you tap the ball, you tap the thing, and the ball will go through there. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter what position you throw it in, it will always throw in the same origin position. So that's one thing I just couldn't figure out. Back to Neva. And then finally, there is this Connect 4 game where you tap one of the pieces and it will calculate where it should fall to, and it will fall there. And just to show that it works. So and then of course, and now normally there would be a Connect 4 where maybe a game would indicate that you've won, but they didn't have time to program that. Though to be fair, in a real life park where you have to do it, you have to actually manually remove some of these pieces. So I don't think it's too bad. It makes it a bit more realistic to what you'd have to do in the park environment. Actually, 1 second. Okay, that works. So there's the map, but there's also other ways to traverse this park environment. These blocks here will take you to different sections of the map. Their layouts try to replicate the direction you'd go into a park. So in a Connect 4, you would have to go this way in order to get to the bin, and vice versa. The lake would be in this direction, so it would be here. Connect 4 would somewhere be there, and the bin will take you back there. So you can't go to the basketball hoop directly from the thing. You have to go to one of these sections to get to the basketball hoop. And yeah, that's how I would traverse the world. So that's the demo. I'll take you now to a demonstration of the code. So for the project, all stuff made in this project was made either using Blender 2.8 for making the models. I was originally going to use Mushroom, but I found that Mushroom really struggled with a lot of hollow objects, and a lot of the meshes I had to make had a lot of hollow elements, so they were very distorted. So I decided to just model everything myself using Blender. And I was originally going to use Unity instead of Unreal 4.27, but I found problems setting up the SDK, NDK, and JDKs for Unity, so I decided to do it in Unreal because I already had those set up, so they removed that issue. All stuff made for this project and everything that will be submitted via Blackboard comes from this folder here. This contains all of the models and textures made for the project. I'll also submit the original FBX files with this AR stuff folder as well. Then there's the 3 audio files, 2 of which I've recorded, being this and this, while the duck sound I got online just edited a bit just to have a bit shorter. I'll give a link to where I have that in the report as well. The AR map is basically just an empty scene, black scene like here. Think of it as scenes from Unity. And everything is in these blueprints, which controls a lot of the logic. You have these enums, which controls the state machines, because that's how traversing the world or working out what world or section you're in is and what state you are in the process of each section. You have this game mode, which determines what systems you use. Like, are you using this player controller and using this AR session? They have actors, which are where all the models are stored. These actors, some of them, as long as they're interactable, will have tags to distinguish between each other, and we'll be using those tags in the pawn class, which basically controls a lot of the logic. So I'm gonna let this open up now. So so at the start, at event begin play, which is basically like start in C# Unity, you have this start AR session, which takes that red data class, which starts the AR session. It sets all the enums and variables used to determine what state everything is in to the default start values. Then this event tick is like the update loop in Unity, and when it's in the start state, it will find all the geometry and then draw a red plane, and then you have this event which only triggers when touch input has been pressed, not hold, just pressed. And what it does is that it takes the screen coordinates, it takes where you've touched, and converts that into a raycast, which then records um, the actor if that hits, if it's hit an actor. In the case of when we don't have any actors loaded, it won't detect anything. And then if we're in the start state, it will check to see if we've hit one of those red planes. And if we had, load the minimap at this location, which is the default location where everything will be loaded in the future. And then it will change whatever state. This double check is just bad naming convention. It should be just the minimap. When you've touched the phone again, it will check to see if you've hit either one of the blocks used to move throughout the world, and depending on, because each block has its own tag telling you where it should go. So like take it here, it's like if the tag of the active touch was mini, you then spawn the mini map after you destroy everything. I've actually made it so that it only destroys certain actors, because there's no point destroying every single actor if none of these actors are actually loaded, or at least checking it, because how you destroy things is that you find all actors of the class of whatever the actor you want and get each of them in the scene and destroy them. So it just takes those inputs. However, if you're in one of the states, you will go into one of these as well, which determines if you've touched a certain object in the process. So for the duck, it's like, did you touch the bread? If you touch the bread, move on to the feeding duck state. If you've touched the water, you've basically thrown the slice of bread. Same with the basketball, did you touch the ball? It despawns the ball. And when you touch the hoop, it'll spawn the ball in that process. That's all happens in the event tick. We'll get to that in a minute. Just want to explain these last two here. And for the Connect 4, it just basically determines if you've touched one of the 7 floating pieces and determines which column you've selected. And for the rubbish bin, it's the same thing. Touch the rubbish, it destroys the rubbish. Then it allows you to touch the bin, which allows you to throw the rubbish in. Once you've determined that you've touched certain states, so like when you've thrown a slice of bread, it will use this move component, which takes the actor's static component, which is basically what the meshes are assigned to, and we'll begin the process of getting the duck to go towards the bread, eating the bread, and moving back to its start position. It's the same for the falling bin, and it's the same for the chute, though it's a bit rigid because it's not a spleen, it's just a linear move to. I couldn't figure out how to do that in time. There's also sound effects played using this play 2D sound. To avoid any errors, because takes place in the tick event, which means it's running every frame, we use this do once command to only have everything happening once, so it all plays out, and then it changes state. So by the time it has a chance to run again, because after you change state, it will reset the do once block or blueprint, and by the time you've reset that for this to run again, we've already moved out of this state, so it will not run again. And for the peaceful, it's a bit more complicated, as it will first determine what player it is to spawn the correct color piece. It will then determine what column you selected, and then out of that column, what's the next row should fall to. And then it will take those two positions and move the component there, and then switching it to the next player. And respawning the selection for the pieces. It will only spawn those pieces floating here if a row is free. So I think that covers it. So thank you for your time.